Welcome to the Uncommon Truth today. Bob and I are joined with our guest host, Harvey Trauter from Langley, BC, Canada. Harvey is presently a coach, mentor, and consultant to business leaders seeking to be more effective as leaders and helping them lead authentically. Over the past 30 plus years, he has launched and built several nonprofit organizations that continue to expand and grow in their communities in Western Canada. And you can find him weekly at www.access.church. He's married to Arlene and they have 2 children, 1 granddaughter, and a new grandson on the way. So thank you for joining us on today's journey to find the uncommon truth about purpose and planning. Brian Tracy says that a clear vision defined by a definite plan gives you a tremendous feeling of confidence and personal power. A good book that I've read says that we need to give careful thought to the paths for our feet and be steadfast in all our ways. So it's clear that planning is an important part of our life. But ultimately, to do a plan, we need to understand our purpose. So gentlemen, Harvey, Bob, thanks for joining me today as we seek to find the uncommon truth about purpose and planning. So why don't we just jump right in and start with our first question. How important do you think knowing our purpose and planning our actions are to success? Harvey, why don't you lead us off?
Hey, well, great to be with you guys, and look forward to coming on many more times. There's my my invitation to myself. When it comes to planning and purpose, there's times that people walk around with no sense of purpose, as if I'm just here putting myself in taking up space and doing time and trying to do my best. And when it comes to, and I believe that we have a creator, and God has put in our hearts and desires, our hearts, certain desires for what he's intending for us to do. And so understanding and grappling with and looking for and discovering and trying to find purpose, I think absolutely critical. And it's not something you grab a hold of and run with. It's something you keep discovering over and over and follow almost like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that statement. One of my favorite verses that I actually use quite a bit for my own encouragement, and as I'm working through life's challenges sometimes, is in Jeremiah. God talks about for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. So all of us in this journey of finding our purpose, because one thing consistent about life is change. And just because we have a purpose today doesn't mean that purpose isn't going to change. It's almost mandated, because as we grow, we change, which opens up doors and opportunity to walk through. So what purpose gives us is something to plan around. And I'm big, and you've heard me say it many times, Harvey and Bob, is that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It was said by, who was it again? I think it was Benjamin Franklin, that if you fail to prepare, you are preparing to fail. So how important do you really feel being clear on what you want to accomplish, that purpose, and actually documenting and setting out a plan is in life?
You were talking about purpose and planning, gentlemen. Exciting topics. Thank you very much. Harvey, I really like what you said about sometimes you're just going day to day. You're just trying to deal with the situation at hand. There's certain stages in life we all go through, the seasons of life. And I remember, I have 3 children. I know those days were massively busy, and so important to have that plan, that you know what you're going to be doing for that day. You know what you're going to be doing for that week. You know what as Covey would say, the important goals are versus the urgent goals, right? Urgent is right in your face. You got to move right now. And then the important stuff gets pushed off. pushed off 1 week, a month, a year, 2 years, 10 years go by, Harvey. Look at me. 10 years have gone by.
Yeah.
And still the important stuff isn't dealt with. So I'm really excited to talk to you about this. It seems to me also that I work a lot with organizations and businesses. Most of them have strategic plans in place, business plans in place, maybe not currently, but they've done it at least at one time. So they would have things like mission, vision, and values. And this is accepted in the business world. It's like you can't have a business today without actually having a written mission, vision, and values. And I have personally a mission, written vision, written values. So I've taken those lessons from organizations and companies and moved that into my life, and that's been really helpful. I'd like to hear you, Harvey, because you work with organizations and people especially, how you found mission, vision, and values to be impactful for people.
Yeah, that's fascinating, Bob, because we have these. Any organizations generally have these written down, and then they have many times, and you found this. Then they have things that they're actually doing that differ somewhat from those written pieces, right? And so the values piece of how we're going to get to where we want to go is I think very critical. And sitting down with a group of people and hearing them interact and so forth and around in their journey, especially in the business, and saying, okay, guys, can I articulate to you what I'm hearing your actual values are, because it's coming out louder than your written ones. So I think it's absolutely critical to get it down, because have you ever had this? I use this analogy often. You ever had it when we were younger and they had these, it's like a merry-go-round. You'd push somebody around the playground in a circle and everybody would hang on. You remember those? It's not like a merry-go-round, but similar. And the faster you push it, the more the centrifugal forces would be to throw you off of it, right? So the more successful you are at spinning this thing, the harder it is to hold on to those things that you need to be doing to survive. And so as the business, your life, everything starts getting complicated, it starts spinning. And like you said, Bob, if you don't have sort of that marker of what I need to hold on to, you're going to get spun off. And it's great fun seeing somebody fly off one of those things. But in life, that's a crisis. That's a terrible thing. So having them down, having them in front of you, reading them, thinking about them, staying in focus, those are the ones that see some great success in actually moving the ball ahead to what their purpose is.
I think that what you've described to me is being able to have that beacon, that like a lighthouse, as we get going through life, it gets busy, especially if you're having any success, or on a slide down through some poor decisions as well. But having that beacon that you can measure things against allows you to make more effective decisions. So what I've learned and I've observed in watching successful people is that them having that true north, that beacon that they know I'm moving towards that point, in times of struggle, in times of triumph, when lots of things and opportunity are coming, if you're not measuring up those things to your purpose, to that beacon that you're heading towards, for sure you will make decisions that maybe, or choices that maybe take you off or away from it in the whole busyness of that. So I really like that point, that this is a critical success factor for us, right? And that is an uncommon truth, that if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. So what do you think is a good process then for us to help define our purpose? How do we find that?
Heath, I really like your analogy about the beacon, right? I like the true north moving true north. For me, there's not just one beacon. There's so part of the process is identifying the beacons. So there's many beacons in a person's life. So as an example, if you're running a business and you're going to be planning for the success of your business, you want to have financial beacons, you want to have human resource beacons, you want to have a niche beacon, you want to have marketing beacons, sales beacons, right? So there's all the pieces of the business. They all have a beacon or beacons, right? In your own personal life, my life, I've got a relationship beacon, I've got a spouse beacon, I've got children beacons, I've got the 7, 8 major areas of life. I actually got to have a beacon for adventure too. So am I getting enough adventure in my life? I put that in. It's because that's part of my heart's desires is to have an adventureful life, right? So I want to, and what I want to do is, I think part of the role is because we have limited time each and every day, that we want to have the plan is to strategically decide what you're going to do that day to hit as many beacons as you can, or maybe not as many, Harvey, but the important beacons that day. So one of the important beacons for me is part of my mission is to actually to build my relationships with God. Take action today to build my relationship with God. An action. I keep it very low standard for me, Harvey. Just take one action. But I will. That's my mission. And so part of my plan is to do something every day that builds that relationship. Next most important one would probably be myself. I want to do something for myself every day so I'm strong for my family. I'm strong for my wife. So I have beacons there. How to eat, exercise, friendships, business goals, right? So I want to be strong there, but I don't want to be selfish too, because I've got kids and I've got a wife. So I want to do those things as well. So for me, Heath and Harvey, it's identifying the beacons that you're going to do. Use your time as strategically as possible. You only have X number of hours in a day, and things keep turning over for importance. Sometimes it's sales that's most important, but sometimes it's your youngest child who's living in Toronto, University of Toronto, and you haven't talked to in a week, right? So those are my thoughts.
Harvey, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's really good. And it takes a while to build a house or a skyscraper. And so it's moving it ahead one step at a time. And sometimes it's one action, like Bob was saying, just taking that one action today. But over 30 days, that's likely 30 actions, and over a month, 31, or 7 actions, and then 31, and so forth, just moving it forward. And you go like, wow, if over the course of 6 months, I've been able to take that one action consistently, it's going to make a significant impact in what I'm hoping to build and keep building. So it's not going to happen in just one day, but it's some sense of trying to be consistent. And maybe it's not every day, maybe it's every 3 days or once a week, that particular beacon that you want to be moving ahead. But it's the attention of where I want to go. I find it interesting. You have a picture there of being on top of a mountain, and I don't think you are on top of that mountain, Keith. It's just an illusion. I think it's an illusion somehow. But I was listening to a speaker talk about climbing mountains, and of course, the higher you get, the less oxygen. And he said, at that point, your steps have to be very, very short steps, and it's very easy because of your lack of oxygen to realize what am we doing up here anyway? What's going on? And so but just keep taking those little steps, and learning to live sometimes with in a mountaintop experience with low oxygen, where, okay, my goal today is to get there. That doesn't seem big, but in this lack of oxygen experience, critical, absolutely critical. So then celebrate that you have moved it ahead 100 yards or 5 kilometers.
And just to build on that thought, Howard, before I lose it, I think that's a great thought, those little steps. But that's what a plan does, is
Yeah.
it makes sure you're going in the right direction. If you're taking a whole bunch of little steps in the wrong direction, that's often because you're not working your plan. So in my head, that's what that's what the plan's all about. Is the plan is to go here with your sales. The plan is to go here with your relationship with your wife, right? You got to have that longer term vision, what you want it to be, the high standard you want it to be at, and then then you start walking, right?
Yeah.
You know, Bob and I have a program that we're just finalizing and getting ready to launch called The Ideal Form of Life. And what you both have just really talked around is defining that form of life that you want. Well, form is the shape. That's what a form is. It's a shape or the configuration of something. And form is an acronym. It actually stands for the chunks of our life. And we've broken it down into 4. Family and friends, which is your relationships. OS is your occupation, your work and your wealth. R is your recreation, your health and wellness. And M is your motivation, your education, inspiration, the things that kind of give you that zest or, for those moments that you might be even struggling through, that the motivation. So I think what you both defined is really being clear on what are the form of life key or primary outcomes that need to be achieved by them. So for me, just sharing transparently, in my form of life, I have one key outcome or vision statement for each category of my life. In my family and friend relationships, I want to be the master of magical moments. So no matter what I'm doing, with whoever I'm doing it, my outcome, my purpose is to strive to make that a magical moment. I unfortunately don't succeed every time, but that is my primary beacon for that, right? In my occupation, I want to be a G factor. I want to be a growth factor. I want to help people grow. I want to help them in the pursuit, right, of their purpose and understanding the performance principles required for that. Are health and wellness, a world-class athlete. It's not that I'm going to be a #1 golfer in the world. That's not the goal. I want to have the habits of a world-class athlete. So I'm trying to be better, always constantly improving in my health and my wellness. And motivation, just how can I be a motivator of motivators? Not that I am the motivator of motivators. No, I want to impact. I want to influence and impact people. I want to motivate people to live their ideal form of life. So I share mine just so that we as a whole, as a discussion point, can talk about how critical it is to have these clearly defined outcomes and then the why, purpose, we want those outcomes. Ultimately, it's success and fulfillment. I think that is it. So that leads us to what are the key questions that we need to ask to really define our purpose, to define our plan for success. And all of the successful people that I know, all of them have asked good quality questions and they're able to answer them clearly for their life. And this is my take and these questions of what I think we need to identify. And then I want your opinions on it. The 5 questions I think for us to really define purpose and to create a plan. First is, who am I? That's identity. The second, where am I from? That's our source. The third, why am I here? Or what am I doing here? That's back to the purpose. The fourth, what can I do? And how will I do it? That's our vision. And lastly, where am I going or how will I get there? The plan. And these 5 questions are repeatedly asked from many of the world's leading thought leaders, whether it be Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Miles Monroe, Gary Vee. I can go on and on. They all wrap around these 5 questions. So what do you boys think of these questions, and how important are they to authentically answer them for us to be able to be clear about our form of life?
Well,
go ahead, Harv, take it away.
I think that's a great segue, Heath, because I've heard this story a few years ago. I actually can picture it because I was in Estonia a number of years ago, just after it had kind of declared its independence from Russia. And so I pictured this story happening there, likely fictional, but a great kind of inventor was walking along rather absent-mindedly in Estonia and crossed the border, the Russian border, and was kind of wandering around and trying to discover what he needed to do. And all of a sudden, a Russian soldier with a gun pointed at him stopped him and said, "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" And the absent-minded, scientist stopped and listened to him and said, "What did you say?" And again, very gruffly, the soldier said, "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" And so rather than answering that question, the scientist says, "Well, that's brilliant. I'm going to pay you $500 a month if every day you point your gun at me and say, 'Who are you, and what are you doing here?'" So those are 2 elements, and maybe even captures a couple of those questions, Heath, that you're talking about, is we can absent-mindedly work our way around and think we're doing something, dreaming, thinking, planning. But if we're startled, especially with a sense of a bit of adrenaline pumping through us, and we're saying, "Okay, who am I?" And you're distinct, and this is where I believe God has made us distinctly different in individuals. And I'm not required to be Heath or Bob. I'm required to be Harvey. And what is that? Who am I? Who am I created to be? And then the big question is, okay, that being the case, what am I doing here? And coming back to that question, and often in an organization, coming back to your question, maybe number 4 or 5 of those you said, and often who I'm talking in the organization, one of the key questions you'd often ask personally is, what are the things that only you can do in this organization? And so if those are things that no one else can do in this organization, that's what you have to be doing, because we get tangled up with all sorts of other things that aren't important. So I think those questions are really, really great. And honestly, it's like if I had pay somebody $500, put a gun towards me, and ask them every day, I think my life would actually change. I think I would approach things critically different. So, boy, can you get something associated with it, Heath, that can have a bit of bite to it,
Yeah, well, accountability, I think, is a big part of what Bob and I are trying to create, actually, for ourselves and for others. And that's the progression that we see in our organization of helping people in the pursuit of their purpose and their performance, is helping them understand, create that plan and a map for their life, for our life, because I'm using this. And then how do we get into the proximity of people that will help us push and or pull us along to achieve that final destination or outcome that our map of life, our form of life, is laid out. And Bob, I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Great conversation, gentlemen. Thank you so much. For me, it's I think it starts with your mindset and your belief whether or not you have control over your life, or the life has control over you. So there's a certain mindset that comes with that. And a lot of us start out from high school or from university, starting to move through life then, and I'll use me as a prime example. As you buy a car, you get married, you buy a house, you have a child, And then one day you're cutting the grass outside your house at age 23, 24 years old, and you realize that you've made these decisions without thinking it through. Or things have happened to you in your life, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a spot and you start to ask those questions like, who am I? Like, how did I get here? What am I supposed to do? But I remember those years where those questions were voiced with panic in them, like massive panic, because I hadn't intentionally thought through any of those questions, Heath or Harvey, before. I was just living, right? I was not intentionally in control of my life. I didn't have the mindset that I was supposed to be in control. I was just living day to day. And that became a great struggle for me for many, many years. And it's really a life quest, because I've had to reinvent myself asking those questions probably at least 5 times, and maybe many, many more times. And so I think they're powerful questions to ask. I think that for anybody listening to this, write the questions down and ask yourself those questions. The second thought that I would have on that is, if you do this on your own, it's almost like you're in this little box trapped in your own mind. And nobody has a more limited imagination than I. Nobody has lower standards than me. And one of the great values of having Heath Stone in my life is he will not abide low standards. He will not abide small dreams. He'll always question, because he's a really good friend and associate. He'll always question those things. So I think a secret to planning, a secret to purpose, a secret to answering those questions is to bring really good people around you and share your dreams, share your thoughts, ask the question, who am I, to your friends, and have them articulate your skills, your talents, what they see in you. Because a lot of us I remember in my 20s and 30s, and maybe even today in many areas, I'm just blind. I'm blind to my stuff. And but it's my good friends, it's my associates, it's the people that are in my proximity that I hold dear and I trust. They'll tell me the truth. They'll hold me accountable. They'll help me create the strategy, help me create the plan, make it better, raise the standards. So that's a real secret, I think, in life, is to find the people around you that will help you be better.
Wow. You've heard me speak probably almost ad nauseum sometimes about the 2 most important laws that I believe there are in life. And that is focus, because what we focus on, we find, we feel, it grows, and ultimately we become. That's manifestation. Our focus is critical, because energy goes where focus goes, energy flows. And proximity and who we allow in our life, and then it's not even just who, it's anything that goes into the 5 senses that we have as a human being, or what I call the 7 holes: 2 eyes, 2 ears, a mouth, and 2 nostrils. Anything that touches our body that goes in as input has an effect in our life. And that proximity affects our health, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So I really, really like the points that you've talked to, and the importance of our mindset, and to control the mindset triad of what we focus on, what our self-talk and our language is around, which creates beliefs. Those beliefs affect our actions, our physiology, the things that we do. So for us to really develop a clear plan, mindset's critical. Being able to be congruent with who we really are. I struggle with this, because who I am immediately then triggers fear of, well, what will other people think if I'm not what I think they think that I should be? So that fear of what others think, or the fear of missing out. If we focus and surround ourselves with good proximity of people, places, things, we have just created our best chance to live an ideal form of life. Harvey, what's your thoughts on focus and proximity?
Well, even picking up a bit on what Bob was talking about, and this is great, guys, is having people around you that give you feedback, feed forward. There's been times where I've kind of down on myself and or down on a circumstance, and it involves somebody else. And I remember talking to somebody, kind of pouring my heart out a little bit, and I really valued them. And they didn't whip me over it. They didn't tell me I was way off, but they gently corrected me by kind of realigning my focus and not jumping on my little bandwagon. And so I walked away from that conversation going, I think he just rebuked me. I think he just corrected me. I was off, but they kind of helped me focus on what I should be focusing on, and didn't make me feel small. And that, I find that helpful with a teammate. I love team sports generally more than individual sports, play them both, but I love to compete with my teammates in practice, not that I'm superior to them, but the competition pushes me to be better. And that I love. When I'm a team member, it's the team's going to win. But when I'm practicing, I'm with somebody that's running beside me. I want to beat them in the race, not because I'm better than them faster, but I'm going to be pushing myself to do my best. And that's what's so helpful about, that being around people who sharpen you, who are very purposeful. They can be very candid, but they're wise. I don't need somebody to rain on my parade when I'm feeling it already, but I need somebody to challenge me, sharpen me, and help me get kind of get that, just what you're talking about, that focus again, because it's so easy to get out of focus, right? And in the game that you're playing, sometimes the competitor wants you to get angry, because your anger will get you off track of what you're trying to do. Now you're angry to get back at them versus we're trying to get this ball across the line or into the net or whatever it is. So staying focused on what you really want to achieve. It's great having people around you.
I love that concept, Harvey, about that you playing as team sports and being on a team. I really think that when I work with organizations and businesses, a lot of them have departments and a lot of them have work groups, but they don't use, they're starting more and more to use the word team, but to help them take steps to build that camaraderie, to build that, those common goals, using common values, and an exciting, motivating vision is a powerful, powerful thing that can take work and turn it from a mundane experience into a powerfully exciting experience for all. And individually, each person gets a chance to excel. And I've played on sports teams where I didn't enjoy it, even though love the game, didn't enjoy it because of the teammates, because of the vision, because of the mission, because of the values. I think that I've tried to build my family with a strong mission, vision, and values. And each and every day I try to make sure that family experience has got some magic to it, as Heath would say, magical moments, and it'd be inspiring. Like the conversations around the table are inspired conversations. And these are all intentional actions that I've learned over the years. And I guess, as broadly speaking, in terms of planning and purpose, I just know that, and I see this all the time, you're going to have some hardships for sure, but you're going to get through them for sure. But is that good enough? It's like playing on an average team. It's not what I want. It's not the epitome of, Heath, it's not the ideal thing we should be doing. It's not the ideal form of family. It's not the ideal form of business. It's not the ideal form of life. And I think that's the specialness about us living here on planet Earth, is we've got an opportunity with the right mindset and the right people around us to actually be better, have more satisfaction, have true fulfillment, and be design our purpose based on our skills and talents and gifts, and really be excited about getting up each and every day doing the things you should be doing, and going beyond just the word excitement. What's even a better word than excitement? But you're actually passionate about getting up each and every day and moving into the world, doing what you're meant to do. These are powerful things. And that's what planning's all about. Is you can have a boring plan, a monotonous plan, or you can have this exceptional ideal plan built by yourself, your own innovation, your own creativity, and supported by good people around you.
I agree. I think it was said, oh, my mind just slips me, who the author that said it. Great. It's called the Gopher Principle. Do what you love with the people you love. Be the best at it. Then monetize it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, money's the last thing, right? Not the other way around. If you go for the money first, that's the wrong thing, I think.
It's not. I think if you chase the money, you'll never have money enough. It'll always elude you. If you chase what you are gifted at and have been given as your natural talents and abilities, the money will chase you. And that is something I've actually seen through life in many, many, many successful men that I've had the fortune of being around and learning from. What I also want to talk about is a concept that you and I were just talking about before our recording here today, and that is building an ideal team, right? Because what you just spoke about, and you, Harvey, as well, is that there's no I in team. Nobody is truly self-made. We've been magnificently woven together and created by God with many gifts and talents. And then we add learning and growth on top of it. But the truth is we're all unique. We've been given different gifts, and we can bring value to a team. And likewise as you do to me. And together, everyone achieves more. We bring value to others, they bring value to us, and iron sharpens iron, as it says in Proverbs. We get better by those that we are in proximity to. It'll also harm us if we make bad choices and surround ourselves or put ourselves in circumstances that are not good for us, and will also have the same compounding effect to the negative. So I think it's a really critical success factor with as we're talking about purpose, we're talking about how to create a plan. You better know what your team is and who they are, and they're going to help you achieve your goal. I heard Miles Monroe on a talk this morning say that anybody that does not help you achieve your purpose in life is not your friend. That is a strong statement. They are not helping you. They're not empowering you to pursue your purpose. They're actually deferring or slowing down your performance and your ability to achieve your ideal form of life. And this is really tough stuff. All of us have to make choices moment by moment of who we're going to hang with, because that's going to affect who and what we become.
Harvey, I'd like to hear your perspective on this particular one, because you've worked with so many people and you're working with businesses. That loneliness is a massive epidemic in our society. I know as soon as you get married, that's a responsibility. Your wife, then you have children, then you have a house, and you have your business. The very first thing we jettison, I'll speak personally, the very first thing I jettison is I don't have any time for friends anymore. And became very, you can be a very busy businessman with a busy family, but be lonely. It's like you're missing your friendships that you used to have. You don't have the time, you don't put the effort into them. And so I know that running a business is a lonely endeavor too. So like you're lonely, you can be lonely in your house, you can be lonely in your business too. And that's not to say it's ultra sad all the time, but it's this, I'd like you to speak to that is how important is it to have those people around you and to build that team? because you lose a sense of team very quickly in life, it seems.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. I don't know if I have any answers. I have a few questions in the midst of it too. How do we grow closer to each other? It comes with purposeful conversations where we let down our guards and we let people know where we're at, what we're facing, and our challenges. I had a friend of mine, fairly well known in the Vancouver area, talk about an experience where he was flying on a plane, and he had the fortune of being in first class, and he had a person beside him that was equally dressed as very successful, and so they got talking about what they were doing. And so one guy told all the things he was doing, and then my friend told all the things he was doing. And he said at the end of it, we kind of, wow, that's pretty amazing. And then my friend, which he does, kind of let him in a little bit on his journey, let him know some of the struggles he was facing. And then the other fellow, who was a stranger just an hour before, began to share some of his struggles. And he said in the midst of it, we couldn't connect with our strengths, but we could connect with each other on our struggles. And he said, then all of a sudden we began to talk more openly and about where we're at. And so I find it comes to a place of, hey, can I be honest? Can I share? Obviously, this is who I am, so I'm going to do it carefully. But are there people around me that I'm letting know, just kind of like you, Bob, your style is, hey, I haven't been perfect at this. I haven't been doing this. So what happens is I get drawn towards you. And so that is some of the first steps of, getting past that loneliness, is where we let other people know who we are. And then they will in turn share a little bit of who they are. And now we can begin. Now this is the secret sauce that gets the relationship going.
Because that's really one of the uncommon truths about life, is we all go through the same things. We all go through the same struggles. I'm sure, Harvey, if you and I sat down, we would talk about marriage struggles. We talk about raising children struggles. We talk about financial struggles. We all have the same struggles. And Heath and I have a vision of bringing people together to talk confidentially and honestly and openly about business struggles and personal struggles, so people can learn and grow, challenge each other, but mostly be support each other through their development as people, right? And we think that we can do this with people, through the power of Zoom. You can bring people together from all over the world, all walks of life, all sharing the same challenges in life, and all aspiring to be the best they can be.
Well said. Well, I want to flip this upside down a little bit with our last question. We're talking about purpose. We're talking about the importance of planning it and some of the questions we need to ask to define it. But what about the thought that you just got to be lucky? What are your views on coincidence and chance in life? You've heard me many times, Bob, use Louis Pasteur's quote, chance favors a prepared mind. I do not personally believe in coincidence. I don't believe in luck. When I met Jack Nicklaus, I'll never forget a statement he said to me. Heath, you get lucky when you play golf, but it's directly proportionate to how hard you work. The luckier I got was a result of how hard I worked. So having a plan, committing it to God, establishing it, committing to myself, and moving forward, is it just luck that it works out? Or do we actually have a choice to predict our future by creating it through defining our purpose and our plan? What do you gentlemen think?
Well, to use your golfing metaphor, I think it's Gary Player that said, "The harder I practice, the luckier I get."
Well done.
Yeah,
You nailed that one, my friend.
yeah. So I think we consistently work at it. We're consistently focusing on it, and then things spin our way, and people go like, "Wow, that was rather lucky," you know. But there's much more to, it's Psalm 23 says, "Surely goodness and mercy will follow me." I believe that goodness and mercy, if you're tracking with God, start following you. And so when you stop and mercy and goodness bump into you, wasn't that lucky? I'm walking a life where I'm believing that God has also purpose in my life, and that mercy and goodness are following me. They're right with me, and I sometimes I pray, I need to be overtaken. I don't want you just following me. I need. So there's times of desperation. Don't get me wrong, but as we are at it and working it, it's amazing how circumstances now start being drawn toward you and changing.
Yes.
Heath, there's no doubt that there is luck in the world. Sometimes you narrowly are missed by a car, right? On a bike or something like that. Maybe you win the lottery or something like that. So luck is reality in life, but I totally agree with both of you. It's about being prepared. It's about your experiences coming to bear, and then you taking action. I'll just give you a quick story about that. My very first job, this is going to age me a bit, but I think most people are getting paid about $2.50 an hour. But there was a job at a grocery store that was paying actually $10.50 an hour. Huge money back then compared to any other jobs that were in the town that I was living in. And so I decided to wanted to apply for a job. So I walked down to the store and I asked where the office was, and they pointed out to me. Like, I'm 15 and a half years old. I'm terrified. And so I walk up to the door and I'm going to knock on this closed door of the office, but I don't. I just don't have the courage to do it, right? So I walk around the store, and all those thoughts go through your head about you're not good enough, you never had this job before, the people on the other side of the door are horrible, blah, 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 whatever's going through your head, right? Even more terror, but something's inside me that makes me go up to the door again. And that was an accumulation of all the hockey games I played, all the baseball games I played, my upbringing with my family, what I believed in, my values, my ethics, and probably most importantly, my work ethic. Like I had a tremendous work ethic, probably given to me by my dad, who was a hard rock miner, right? And my mom as well, probably. My parents instilled that in me. So Heath, I could not knock on that door. And so I knocked on the door, and the guy throws open the door, and the meanest guy you've ever seen rifles his head out at me. He goes, "What do you want?" And I say, I like an application, sir. I'd like to have a job here. He goes, "You know how many applications I get a day? I got a stack this high. And you know where I'm going to put your application? Right on the bottom." And he stares at me and he doesn't say anything. And I say, "Can I have an application, sir?" And he goes, "Arr." He growled. He literally growled. And he fumbles around in the office room and he takes the application. He shoves it through the door into my hand and he slams the door. And so I'm shaking. I go home, fill out the application. The next day I have to go back to knock on the door and hand in the application again. So I do it, right? And 2 days later, I get a call. "Would you like to come in for work?" And that job put me through university. Was that luck? Was that luck?
Wow, Bob.
That's not luck.
No. And you know what? I like a better word than luck. Favor. I think that when you do the right things, you get blessed. There's rewards and there's consequences to every action that we do. And a negative action will get you a negative reward, which we usually call a consequence. A positive one gets us a reward or a consequence. And sometimes you do a good thing, you don't necessarily get what you think is the appropriate response or reward for it. But the fact is, all things are working out for our good. All of us have been through challenges, have been nicked and gone through, life. But what I can honestly say is that as we're really talking about this, it comes back to that purpose, that vision of where you want to go and knowing why you want it, that's going to help you get through the challenges that come our way. And that's the reason for planning, because chance does favor a prepared mind. You knew the outcome you wanted. Despite your fear, you had courage, because courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is doing the right thing in spite of our fear. You knocked on the door. You took the tongue lashing. You submitted the application. You got the job because you persevered. And that's what our purpose helps us do, in my mind, from today, is that as we walk out the plan in faith, that's our belief that we can achieve it. That is what actually allows us to get those outcomes and the growth that we need moving forward. So this has been an amazing discussion. It's definitely not over, Harvey. We're definitely going to have more discussions. So back to the very beginning of our conversation, I think we'll definitely have you back on this and other topics. But I want to take the opportunity to try to summarize what I've learned and summarize what the uncommon truth is about purpose and planning for today. I think we start with the fact that success in life leaves clues. And that one of those clues is that you need to have a defined answer to these questions that will help you define your purpose, your why for doing anything you're going to do. And that you can control and predict your future by creating it. So I really want to thank for the discussion. This is going to be my summary. 1, purpose and a vision are critical success factors in our personal and professional lives. The need, 2, to be honest and vulnerable with ourselves and ask ourselves those questions that are going to assist us to really be clear on the outcomes and why we want to get there. Defining our form of life so that we are clear on what rituals are required, what actions are required to reach those outcomes. The best place to find those is those that already have the results we want. Copy what they do. 4, goes back to 2, I'm saying being really honest with ourselves when asking, but really answering these 5 questions. 1, who am I? That's your identity. 2, where am I from? What do I really believe? Am I an amoeba that just came from that? Or was I magnificently created with gifts, talents, and a purpose? That's what I believe. 3, why am I here? And what am I going to do here? That's the purpose. 4, so with this purpose, what can I do? And how will I do it? That's the vision. And lastly, where am I going and how will I get there? That's the plan. If we answer those, we can create a purpose and develop the performance principles that will create the success and the outcomes we're desiring. And I have observed this in my life, and I've observed this in many, many successful people, far more successful than I, they all define where they're going, who they are, and how they're going to get there. And that really comes back to one thing we just talked about, mindset. We need to control our focus and the proximity of the people, places, things that we allow into our lives, because our thinking and our language drives our beliefs. Our beliefs create our emotions drive motion or action. We cannot allow fear to control us. We need to step forward like Bob did in his story. And I know, and I've seen it in his life, the example of courage to persevere and to take those steps forward and controlling his mindset, his thinking. So we really need to remember that we can change. We need to live above the line. We're accountable. The circumstance we're in right now was created by ourselves. Therefore, if I created this circumstance and situation, I have the ability to change and grow. Meaning, we can predict success. We can predict our destination by creating the plan and the path that gets us there. I have very strong beliefs on what that path is. My question to you is, what do you believe? Because that is going to define how you answer those questions. So let's surround ourselves with high quality people. Let's create that ideal team. And that's something that Bob and I are really committed to with the Uncommon Truth, is to create those types of experiences that are going to empower people in the pursuit of their purpose and develop the performance principles that will get them there. And then there's the groundhog principle. Do what you love with the people you love. Be the best at it. And lastly, monetize it. Be clear. Invest in yourself. Grow and define your ideal form of life. Then you get to live intentionally focused on executing. And you'll have the confidence to embrace the life that you've dreamed about and designed for yourself. Have courage. Take the step to defining your purpose. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to talk today. Is there any last or closing remarks that you, Harvey, or Bob would have, or any thoughts or additions to the summary of the importance of purpose and planning?
I'd like to thank Harvey for coming on today. Thank you so much, Harvey. I was inspired by what you had to say. So nice to meet you. Thank you very much for taking the time and being with us today.
Yeah, it was great being with you guys. I think Bob's story just how when you have a purpose and a plan and the right mindset, it helps you stand a little longer and persevere when others quit. And even if you have to stand, 30 seconds longer than your opponent, and that's what a purpose does. It says, I need this job. I'm just gonna do it. And when you have that plan and purpose, boom, and so it's telling yourself, I can stand. How long can you stand? I can stand another minute. I can do that. And then the breakthrough comes many times.
That's really well said. I was listening last week to a YouTube, and Denzel Washington was actually speaking, and he said, fail forward. Fall down 7 times, get up 8. The key to success is perseverance. Get back up.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I'm blessed. I'm very grateful for the time we had today. I look forward to us doing it again, and we'll definitely be talking about purpose and planning in future episodes. So I just want to thank you all for journeying with us today as we discussed the uncommon truth about purpose and planning. Remember to visit us at www www.theuncommontruth.life and search for The Uncommon Truth on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Until next time, God bless.